Mr. Brown wants to go back to Washington. Welcome to Columbus on the Record. I'm Mike Thompson. Former Senator Sherrod Brown had three plausible options: run for governor, run for U.S. Senate, or stay out of elected politics altogether. He apparently has chosen to try to return to familiar territory and challenge Senator Jon Husted. Brown has said nothing publicly, but people close to him have relayed his decision to several media outlets. The move makes Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer happy. He lobbied Brown to help Democrats try to win back the Senate. The move disappoints some Democrats and labor leaders who think Brown would have had the best chance of beating Vivek Ramaswamy in the race for governor. Herb Asher, is this a good move for Sherrod Brown? Is this a good move for Ohio Democrats?
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And for Sherrod, he loves the Senate. And being governor is a very different kind of job. I don't know how much he would really love that, but I think in the Senate, he gets to work on national and state issues that benefit lots of people, whether it's pension issues, whether it's Social Security fairness issues, things like that. And I think he has a better chance of becoming senator than governor. The Senate race will be so important that no matter how much money Husted raises, Sherrod will be able to raise a ton of money also. And for him now, he gets a chance to run against the incumbent. And so when you think about it, Jon Husted has a voting record, including a voting record on the big, beautiful budget bill or whatever, which will actually at some point be inflicting lots of pain on people. So there's an obvious set of issues now for Sherrod Brown to go after Husted or whatever.
And just to be honest, with the labor leaders, were they disappointed? We saw some quotes that they had said they would lay in the groundwork for a run for governor, and then Brown decided to go for Senate.
Yeah, I kind of perceived that to be, labor was instrumental in helping Kathleen Clyde become the Ohio Democratic Party chair. That was Sherrod Brown's pick. I think traditionally the governor candidate gets to pick the leader of the party, and I think labor is very concerned about Ramaswamy's record on labor issues. I think they see him as more of an existential threat right now. And also, having a strong governor candidate would help Democrats kind of immeasurably in Ohio, having things like appointments, regulations, and kind of have more of a direct effect on people's lives here, even though obviously being in the Senate, you have a chance to impact people's lives as well.
You know, Laura, Sherrod Brown was a congressman before he was in the Senate, then he went from there to Senate. I just had a hard time envisioning him as governor. Do you think Ohio voters would have felt the same way, do you think?
I'm not sure, but I think that what was attractive about running for governor is that then you get a 4-year term and you don't have to run again in 2 years. Yep. Because Husted was appointed to an opening, they both have to, whoever is the winner has to run again. And, running a statewide campaign is a massive grind. I also think this is going to be pretty much an epic fight between these two candidates. They both have long resumes of public service and politics, and they both have the ability to raise just an enormous amount of money. So it's going to be and also the balance of the control of the Senate is in balance.
So Terry, this will be two well-known Ohio politicians with long records of public service. It'll be an issue-oriented campaign. They're going to stick to the issues and the high ground. There won't be any negative ads, right?
There'll be tons of ads, and the contrast will be interesting because suddenly Jon Husted is the outsider, the fresh face, a guy who's not spent decades and decades and decades in Congress. And
he's been in office for close to 3 decades in Ohio.
I
fresh is a relative term.
I understand that, but still, he's much younger, and today's Washington Post, hardly a right-wing organ, made the point that Schumer is trying to go for a lot of old faces, and some people, like the Montana senator, said no to running because he said it's time for some new blood. So there's some interesting contrasts. And by the way, OSU might want to consider switching to becoming a commercial station for next year because the TV ad buys are going to be huge, and OSU could attract millions of dollars that way.
That'd be nice. I don't think that's happening. Herb, I always say politicians choose to run, choose not to run, based on whether they can win or not.
Yeah.
Jon Husted, he ran statewide in 2010, Secretary of State. Then he ran with Mike DeWine. Well, he started running against Mike DeWine, opted for lieutenant governor, then ran with him the last couple times. He hasn't run himself statewide in 15 years.
That's true.
Is it that he Brown thinks he has a better chance against Houston than Ramaswamy?
Yeah, no, I think so. And I think part of it goes back to the money that, Ramaswamy will have whatever he needs. And if Sherrod were running for governor, it'd be a little bit more difficult to raise money. The U.S. Senate now is more in play than it was a month ago because Tom Tillis of North Carolina is not running for re-election. Roy Cooper, the former governor of North Carolina, is running for that seat. So that could be very easily a Democratic pickup. And if Sherrod could win, that would be a pickup for the Democrats. And now they're down to 51-49. And so I think the Senate became more attractive with the greater chance of maybe being in the majority. I think the Republicans are still favored. So I think Sherrod chose the race that was more favorable for him, but also a situation. Imagine being the Democratic governor of Ohio with a Republican legislature like we have. In other states where
It'd be like being the Republican governor of Ohio with the legislature that we have.
and literally in other states when that happened, including North Carolina and Kentucky, the legislature said, hey, we're going to take your powers away.
Yeah.
No more appointment powers for U.S. Senate, and we'll take away some of your budget powers.
All right, let's get to the governor's race. With Sherrod Brown's decision, other Democrats have some deciding to do, namely former Congressman Tim Ryan. Earlier this year, he said he was considering a run for governor. Now his spokesman says Ryan has a renewed and heightened interest in running. Of course, Democrats already have one candidate, former Health Director Amy Acton. The question is, if Ryan joins the race, do they fight it out in a primary, or does one of them drop out to run for lieutenant governor? Acton this week released a list of Democrats who have endorsed her, and she touted internal polling that shows her what she says is tied with Ramaswamy. Andrew Tobias, do we have any kind of timeline? We're waiting forever for Sherrod Brown to make his decision. Any timeline on when Tim Ryan is going to decide?
I think it's somewhere, but not necessarily in the next couple of weeks or so. But I mean, I'm just, maybe that's wishful thinking, just so that we can have resolution on this and not spend months talking about it like we did about Sherrod Brown. But yeah, I don't know how seriously Ryan was considering running for this office. I think there was at some point the conventional wisdom coalesced around Sherrod Brown's going to run for governor. So I think for Ryan, it was easy to say, oh, I'm thinking about running for whatever, and just kind of have his name out there. But now it's more of like a time for choosing because it's a more tangible situation that he has to decide. So we've seen him in the past tease running for statewide office and pass on it. He finally did it in 2022 when his congressional district got drawn out. So we'll see what he thinks here. But I don't think Democrats would be that excited to have a hotly contested primary given kind of they have bigger fish to fry here. But, I also think it's very possible it might happen.
Terry.
Well, interestingly, Tim Ryan's got some seriously consider because he moved out and abandoned the Mahoning Valley to come to Columbus. He's a high-paid lobbyist for natural gas and crypto people, both of which are an anathema to a lot of the Democrat base and liberal coalitions. So Tim Ryan's going to have to think hard. And also, I don't think Amy Acton's just going to get out of the way because Tim Ryan says he wants to jump in, because there's a lot of Democrat women in Ohio who felt that women have been neglected by some of the power brokers in the Democrat Party.
Herb, to win the governor's race, you have to win the cities as a Democrat, and you have to not lose by as much in the rural areas.
Exactly.
Amy Acton, because of COVID and the shutdowns, is very unpopular in rural areas. Would Tim Ryan be a better candidate to try to capture some of that rural Ohio vote?
I think at the margins, but not dramatically so. And I think Acton realizes that. I think she's going to have a lot of emphasis on issues of health and, public safety, if you will, that will play well in rural areas. But all you're doing there is trying to lose 60-40 rather than 70 or 80-20.
Laura, the Senate race is two old hands, one a little bit older than the other. This would be two relative newcomers to politics anyway. Ramaswamy's been around. Amy Acton, of course, with COVID was well known, but they really haven't run.
Tim Ryan, definitely, he's an old hand for sure.
Yeah, but if it's Amy Acton versus Ramaswamy is what I'm saying.
Then it's two very atypical candidates against each other. I think Ramaswamy's name ID is really shot up there. He's everywhere all the time. Amy Acton, I think, has residual name ID from COVID and all the 2 o'clock press conferences where she gave updates, and I think she has a very non-traditional approach into politics that might be appealing to the general election voter.
Who energizes the Democrats in the state more, Tim Ryan or Amy Acton?
Amy Acton.
You think?
Yeah. And one thing we haven't talked about is, what will the general tenor of politics be nationally and at the state level in the midterm election? Will Trump really be very unpopular? Will Ramaswamy, who early on, before he was really very active in this campaign, made a number of incredibly, I thought, stupid comments about property taxes, desirability of homeschooling and things like that. And
Andrew, I assume there probably will be discussions between Amy Acton and Tim Ryan as to, do you want to avoid this primary? Would one consider being lieutenant governor? Everyone assumes Amy Acton would be the lieutenant governor, but we shouldn't assume that just because maybe she has less experience in statewide politics than Tim Ryan does, but that's the only thing that separates them.
Yeah, those conversations might happen. There's kind of a schism in the Democratic Party. Amy Acton is affiliated with Sherrod Brown's campaign. He has some Sherrod people, or kind of help basically her key people in her campaign. Tim Ryan has kind of a different set of consultants. So I don't know if that kind of petty stuff matters with things like this. But like I said, I mean, I know I talked to Joe Regola, who's a big labor leader here, and he kind of said that he wouldn't mind there being a primary, but it'd be interesting to see if that kind of sentiment exists, if it starts getting ugly, and personal. So I really don't know where this is going to go, but I'm sure that there will be conversations to try to prevent a primary in a state where Democrats are so disadvantaged.
And the Ramaswamy people in some ways might prefer running against Tim Ryan because his 20-year record in Congress is pretty much a vacant, empty ship. And there's a lot of other votes and other things that make it easier to go after. So it'd be interesting to see which would be stronger. But I think there's some real divisions out there. And again, his lobbying business makes him pause. Does he really want to give up all that money to run? And will it make the parts of the Democrat base unhappy with him?
We shall see. For fans of computer chip maker Intel and those pushing its New Albany project, it was a good week. At least it was better than last week. Last week, President Trump called for Intel CEO Lip-Bu Tan to resign because of his ties to Chinese businesses. Senator Bernie Moreno quickly echoed Trump and said the company should be investigated for fraud. The price of Intel shares dropped on Wall Street last week. Well, on Monday, Lip-Bu Tan got a meeting with President Trump. And after the session, the president wrote on Truth Social that it was very interesting. And he called Tan's success and rise an amazing story. Intel's stock rose about 10%. But the worry remains. State lawmakers this week, 2 Democrats, called for greater transparency on how Intel is spending government assistance on its New Albany project. Laura Bischoff, government transparency on how it's spending its money. That's a novel idea.
Actually, it's an idea that's been around since the 70s with public records law, but the lawmakers have never met an exemption that they didn't like.
Are they more serious this time, lawmakers?
Well, this is 2 Democrats. They've introduced a resolution, which is really kind of like a suggestion of like, hey, we'd really like more transparency, more regular reports. I don't see that actually happening. I will say the governor on Thursday at a press availability said that he is confident, again, he's sticking to the line, he's confident that chips will be built at that site. They've already invested $7 billion into it, and so he doesn't see the plug getting completely pulled and we have some, weird half-built chip factory. And he said, this is a matter of national security, that we have domestically produced chips, et cetera. I do think it's going to it's these delays. I think we're going to see more and more of the delays.
Terry, is the worry over now that President Trump's on Lip-Bu Tan's side?
Well, the worry isn't over. There's still more to happen. But as I predicted a number of months back, and I'm doubling down on it now, you're going to see very soon some new investors, maybe the United States in it, some other countries, some other people. So there's going to be things happen. And besides AI that's got people's attention, there's a thing called quantum computing that's just over the horizon that could tie in with what happens with that Intel plant. Again, probably under a different name, but I think it's still going to happen. It's just going to have a few bobs and weaves before it does, because again, 1,000 people are working there now building it. They aren't going to stop and turn it over to nothing.
Herb, what do you make of the meeting? I mean, it's typical President Trump.
Typical
He meets
Trump.
with somebody and they're best buds, and then 3 weeks later they're hating each other, and it's just kind of like a soap opera. But it seems like there's some. You look at Reuters and the Wall Street Journal and Bloomberg. There's deals to be made with these chip manufacturers. There's something going on there.
Sure, but again, the way Trump approaches this, or tariffs, or so many other things, he adds an element of instability and unpredictability, which is not good for the overall process. But the people in Ohio were relieved that at least Intel was now, considered to be a positive thing rather than, getting rid of their president.
So what do lawmakers and folks here in Ohio do right now? They just wait, right, Andrew? They have to just wait and see how this plays out, right?
Yeah, this talk of the U.S. government taking a stake in the company is pretty unusual. I know that the government got a board seat, I think, in the U.S. Steel merger. So, but it's like the state capitalism kind of thing that we typically see in other countries. But on the other hand, there's been the argument about these chip companies, how important they are for national security. I mean, that's essentially how the big Taiwan semiconductor company got started. And I think this is kind of something like what Intel had in mind when they started this whole project in the first place, thinking that would be subsidized by the government. So it's kind of uncharted territory to actually see this happen. But I agree that there's a lot of investment, literally and kind of figuratively, in the idea of building this factory here in Ohio. So, but yeah, I mean, it's out of the. We asked about lawmakers; it's completely out of their control.
Yeah. All right, our last topic. These are tricky days for college administrators in Ohio and around the country. President Trump has targeted Ivy League schools like Harvard and Columbia. Many schools, including Ohio State, stand to lose tens of millions of dollars in research funding from the federal government. State lawmakers have passed a law that bans DEI programs and it mandates campuses allow for more conservative viewpoints. All this comes as many schools face decreasing enrollment as well as economic pressures to cut costs. Terry Casey, Ted Carter, the president of Ohio State, is a former fighter pilot. His strategy is to fly under the radar, to use that metaphor. Is it working?
Well, he's also a Navy admiral used to piloting through minefield waters and avoiding rocks and mountains and hard places and other things like that. But one person summarized it pretty well to me. They said whether it's big tech or universities, they always find ways to get things done. And of course, they're all focused on the money. So I think it'll get done, it'll get solved. And also Ohio State, given the history as a land-grant university, as a public university, they're in a better situation to handle things and understand dealing with public scrutiny and answering questions like this.
Herb, Ted Carter is facing criticism from faculty. Imagine that, a college president facing criticism from faculty. But anyway, for not standing up tougher to President Trump and the state legislature and, jeopardizing academic freedom on campus.
Well, I think just focus on Trump. That interview that he did with Margaret Brennan, Margaret was constantly trying to get Ted to say something negative about Donald Trump, and he didn't, and it was very smart. He doesn't want to rock the boat. He wants to protect Ohio State. The danger for him is that Donald Trump and the Justice Department are so unpredictable that they, in fact, can go after any university. They'll find something. They're going after George Mason University right now because the faculty there supported their president. They're going after the faculty. Let that happen at Ohio State from the U.S. Justice Department, and Ted or the Board of Trustees will have to say, this is an outrage.
So, Laura, at the State House, you've covered the State House for a long time. What is the relationship between public education, higher education, and lawmakers right now? Is it solid?
I think it's in flux. I think that there's been a long push toward requiring universities to have their professors do more teaching and less research projects. They don't like the idea of tenured professors. There's sort of a big chip on their shoulder toward higher education. And I also think that the current mix of lawmakers is much more gung-ho on community colleges and trade schools and getting people hard skills. So I think the affordability problems that we've had with the universities, higher education, and also this mix of lawmakers, it's a little bit of a dicey time.
Yeah, demographic changes anyway. Let's get to our final off-the-record parting shots. Terry Casey, you're up first.
Just got back from 10 days in Iceland, and it's an amazing country, but my point is we in America need to better appreciate and understand what we have here and also understand how the world is changing very definitely. So it's a fascinating world out there. Last year was in India, Singapore, and Japan, and we need to better understand how we fit into the world and how we can interact and compete.
Herb.
President Trump, keep your hands off my Smithsonian Institution.
You don't want him involved in the exhibits?
Yeah.
No? All right, Andrew.
Rewriting American history, no.
So, Democratic Justice, Ohio Supreme Court Justice Jennifer Brunner's running for election next year. We're Ohio, so there's like 5 or 6 Republicans who want to run to replace her. They're kind of tripping over themselves to get the nomination. Well, the Ohio Republican Party has a screening committee that's meeting on Saturday. They're going to be considering an endorsement in that race. And I don't know if they're going to endorse that. That's a lot of candidates to run in one race, but we'll see what happens.
All right. Laura.
My colleagues at the Dispatch wrote a story just recently this week on this new policy that Ohio State has of no chalking. You're not allowed to write messages in chalk on the sidewalks and the streets. And I just think it's a stunning assault on the First Amendment, and I don't know how that could stand.
I run through the Oval all the time. I would miss the no chalk messages on the. Some of them are kind of funny and some of them are mean, but whatever. The rain washes it away. Anyway, OSU fans very excited that Michigan is going to have to pay a fine for stealing signs. I remind you, stealing signs is not cheating. That's why they have signs, to keep things secret. You steal them, that's part of the game. But using video cameras to steal them is cheating. Whatever. That is Columbus on the Record for this week. Continue the conversation on Facebook. Also, watch us anytime at our website, wosu.org/COTR. We're also on YouTube, where we're becoming quite popular in the PBS app. For our crew and our panel, I'm Mike Thompson. Have a good week.